everyone, so I just wanted to share this layout with you of my daughter. I've got 3 photos there that I'm hoping to scrapbook, and I pulled some pages out of the Chamel's Starshine collection and a piece of vellum that I had left on my desk. So all I knew is that I wanted to use this background paper, which is a blue and green chevron, for these photos, and I was hoping to scrapbook all 3 photos onto the one page, which meant that I wanted to cut down one of the photos, and you can see just off to the left I have some frames there that I'm hoping to use to frame that particular photo. Haven't decided which one, so I'll just have a play around with the way that that looks on the background page, and I'm also reaching for some washi tape at this stage, which will help me decide which photo frame I'm going to use. So I've got like a green and white striped washi tape that I've pulled out there, and a glittery green washi tape, because that photo frame off to the left is also glittery green, whereas the photo frame that's on the page at the moment is a blue and white striped with glitter. So I thought that the washi tape in the glittery green might actually match the photo frame, but unfortunately it's a slightly different green. So I decided to go with that photo frame and use the green and white striped washi on this page. So just trimming down that photo again so it'll fit behind that photo frame. And yeah, I guess the side shots are more photos of my daughter's hair after what it looked like once it had been in plaits for a couple of weeks, those little plaits, and then just I took a nice front-on shot of her looking at the camera, so that's the one I'm going to frame. And that's really all the idea that I had, other than pulling out some other papers from Chamel's Starshine collection, which, by the way, I've loved using, and I've done loads and loads of layouts with that collection. So just going through now and trying to decide how I'm going to layer up the paper behind that photo. I really struggle with the bright florals, and I made a point to try and use up some of the bright florals in the collection. So yeah, just really trying to add some in there, and that's one of the reasons I pulled the vellum out, because I find that vellum can tone down those really bright background papers. So if you do have a background paper that you either purchased as a single paper because you thought it looked great at the time and now you're struggling to use it because it is quite bold, or maybe you bought a paper pad where you do have some of those brighter patterns in there, then I'd encourage you to have a go at using vellum to try and soften that background a little bit and help it tie in with the rest of your layout. So that's what I end up doing here, and I'm just sort of trimming it down. I've still not at this point got a great idea of exactly how it's going to all come together, but just think I've got to make some decisions about where the cuts are going to go, and so start to layer things up like that. So you can see my first idea is to have it off to the side there on a horizontal, and then I decide that I'm covering up way too much of that floral paper, and it kind of defeats the purpose of including it and challenging myself to include it. So I end up moving it out to the side in a moment. I'm just having a look at some of the other things that I've got and that I want to use. So there's a cut apart piece on that paper you can see off to the right that I really wanted to get on this layout. And so that sort of made me make the decision to move that floral piece over a little bit to make room for that cut apart that I will be using shortly. Also pulled out a couple of other papers, so I've got the globes off to the left that you can see in the cameras, and I'm hoping to use those as embellishments for the page. So now I'm just going to cut that cut apart piece off the page, and I just think it definitely sums my daughter up really well, and so I wanted to really use it on this layout. So I think it says she's a dreamer, a doer, I can't read the other one, and then something about believing that possibilities are everywhere, which is just her personality in a nutshell. So decided that would be a good card to include on this particular layout. So I'm starting to feel better about how it's all coming together, and I think, decide that now's the time to commit. So, this is my process is, I just pull out a bunch of supplies and then I start layering them up with the photos in mind, and then just play around with the placement of things until I decide that I'm happy with wherever I put things. So putting these papers on a bit of an angle just to create a bit of interest behind the photo, and there's that vellum again reappearing. So I've only just started using vellum in my layouts like on a more regular basis, and I just think it adds a little bit more texture and interest to the background, so just behind photos, and gives you somewhere to tuck little embellishments and things like that. So definitely find it useful if you're trying to just create that little bit of extra dimension and give it something different to your layout than just papers behind it. So just committed to the photos there, the 4x6 photos, and and putting that cut apart piece, and then just going to add that photo frame to the top, which I think works quite well. And underneath the photo frame it says totally, so that's referring to that card there that I was talking about. So I'm just going through now and starting to think about how I'm going to embellish the page. This is that green and white striped washi tape that I was mentioning earlier. I only bought this washi tape a little while ago, and I couldn't tell you the brand. I just picked it up from a local craft store. But I've used it a lot since I bought it, and there was loads on the roll, but I just find it quite sort of simple, and I didn't have a lot of green washi tapes, particularly sort of this toned down kind of green, so I found it quite versatile, and I've used it a fair bit since I bought it. So just adding that into 3 different spots that I'm going to embellish, and just trimming that off and folding it over the back. And yeah, so I guess that's where I start this layout process with all of the papers and everything now stuck down. I'll start thinking about how I'm going to embellish, and I've just pulled out a bunch of embellishments off to the side. I don't end up using a huge amount, but this is one of the ones that I did use some things out of. So these are vellum pieces that came from my local reject shop. So the actual pack is, I'm just looking at the name of the pack, I'm trying to pull it out now as we speak. The brand is called the Craft Store, and I don't know that they release new ones, but they don't have a name for it, but it had a whole bunch of vellum pieces in there, and so I'm just going through and pulling out things that I think would fit, focusing on the florals, trying to bring in more of the floral from the background, and any colours that I think might go with it. So really inexpensive pack of vellum die cuts. I think you get like 55 in the pack, and they have a huge variety. There's some gold foil, and it's sort of more of a rose gold foil rather than your traditional sort of bright golds. And also the same brand you can see of stickers there from the Craft Store. I decided I'm going to use some of those on there as well. So just playing around with what might work well on that particular layout. And again, those stickers had a little bit of the gold foil on there, so it came well together with the die cuts. So just starting to think about now, will I include some cameras? And I do like cameras as an embellishment because, often enough we're taking the photos, and particularly on this layout I was taking multiple photos at different angles, so it kind of ties in well with the whole photo theme. It was lots and lots of photos of her hair so that she could see it a little bit better about what it looked like on her. She was almost as excited by this hairstyle as she was about the little plaits that she had. So just starting to add those cameras, and I just chose cameras that coordinated well with the papers that I'd already chosen, and just starting to cut those out. So this is going to be page 1 of a 2-page spread. So once I've uploaded the second page onto YouTube, I will include the link below to the other page, so you can watch them in succession if you like. And I was always planning on doing a 2-page spread with this layout, so I've actually got a large photo of the one that I've put in the frame. I think it's a 5x7, so I'll be doing that on the opposite page, so do keep an eye out for that. Just starting to think about how these embellishments are going to come together now as well. Layering up, so that's a word strip there of vellum, and then looking at these florals and how I can add the florals in. So I only had 2 florals in that pack, so the third vellum embellishment is sort of a bunch of balloons behind that camera, and I also decided to use that hot air balloon. I think it kind of ties in well with the card that says she's a dreamer, just, you know, off into space sort of thoughts around a hot air balloon. So, and there was a little bit of a gap there that just needed filling, so I didn't really consider it an embellishment so much as, you know, just yeah, adding to the page by including that there. So yeah, just playing around with where everything's going to go. I put that hot air balloon on pop dots or dimensional stickers, but didn't actually stick it down straight away, just, you know, so I could see how it would all come together. And then that's just me popping those balloons behind that camera. And yeah, I think, you know, overall the page came together really well. Again, I didn't use, you know, hugely expensive embellishments. It was more you know, layering and cutting apart sheets and things like that. And I think I've mentioned this in previous videos, but it's one of the things I like about the Chamel collections. I now have all of her collections in 12x12 papers, and they're great because you can just cut apart pieces and embellish the page that way. And you can see I've just used a couple of vellum pieces and a chipboard piece and things like that to add to it. So I'm using a stapler to staple down that that sentiment in vellum across the edge there, and yeah, just holding it into place that way. With the vellum die cuts and things, I do try and make a point to hide where the adhesive is going, so if I know that that part of the die cut is going to be behind something, that's where I'll put the adhesive, but I tend not to use adhesive on the exposed parts of the vellum as much as possible, which is one of the reasons I used the stapler on the sentiment, because it was going right over the top of everything. So at the moment I'm just trimming down those cameras. So generally what I do when I'm cutting things out from paper, something as small as the camera, is I'll just trim it down to make sure I'm happy with roughly what it looks like, and then I'll go back and, you know, fussy cut it out so that it's very neat. And I'm just adding some dimensional adhesive to the back of the camera just so that it lifts off the page a little bit. So I didn't with the one down the bottom on the right hand side, but I will be with the other two, just giving it a bit more yeah, dimension off the page, I guess. So just now trimming down that third camera to go up on the top there. Then I'll start thinking about how I'm going to, or where I'm going to put my title and what my title will be. And I do struggle a little bit with titles, so I tend to not sort of have a title in mind when I first start the layout, and then I work with what space I have left and what I actually want to say about the photo. And so, yeah, you know, a lot of people I know do go in mind thinking about what they want as a title, but I generally just do the scrapbooking part and then add the title if and when the time comes. So sometimes I don't actually add a title to the page, or I, you know, use a journaling card as the title, which I could have done for this one in particular. But yeah, just now thinking about how I'm going to do that. Oh, and I pull out the enamel dots as well. I do want to use, these are the Amy Tan little love hearts. I found that they didn't stick as well as I would have liked, and so I've had to go back a few times with some of the pages that I've used them on and glue them down with using glossy accent. But yeah, they're very, very cute, but yeah, I just find that they don't seem to be as sticky as some of the other adhesives, enamel dots. So So this is where I say yes, I'm definitely going to put that balloon there, and I think that I'll be heading for the letter stickers shortly. And I go with, so I go with the green foam thickers, and yeah, just starting to think now, as you can see, about what I'm actually going to say on the title. I have a look at 3 different types, but I decided to go with those foam thickers. I think they're called daiquiri is the style of thicker, and it might be in spinach colour if I remember correctly, but don't quote me on that. So just starting to see if there's any other options, and no other options, so I definitely go with those. And yeah, now thinking, what am I actually going to put on my title, and do I have the letters to cover it, which is sort of, you know, usually the issue with thickers is making sure that you've got the right letters. So I end up working backwards, and then I readjust here as well. So I think you don't get to see me complete this layout. I ran out of space on my recording device, and you just miss me finalising some letters, and I think adding some of those enamel dots as well. But I do have some still shots at the end of the video which shows you the finished product. So I just hope that you enjoyed watching this process video. Stay tuned for the second page that will be coming soon. Please do give it a thumbs up if you like the video, and also, you know, subscribe to my channel if you want to see more examples of my scrapbooking. I just adjust the letters there, and there's the final shots of the photo. Thanks for watching.